For so many drivers, this is it, their only chance to make the big show next week. This is the One-Up Superstar Series Daytona 500 Duel number 1, and it all starts right here at the World Center of Racing, Daytona International Speedway, for 30 laps, 31 cars. Some are locked in, some trying to make their way in, and with that many different agendas on the racetrack, it's sure to be a wild ride for everyone involved. And alongside me to bring you all the action is our 2022 One-Up Turbo Truck Series champion and our outside pole sitter for the 2024 Daytona 500. I am talking, of course, about Ryan Griffin. It's great to have you with us. Well, this is what everybody's been building up over the offseason for their one chance to make the big race, and for some, it's easier said than done.
Yeah, it's going to be... Now, I'm lucky that I was able to get the stress of today out by qualifying how we did on Sunday, but for some of the guys in the race today, it's going to be the stress levels are going to be through the roof, and you're going to have to manage those stress levels if you want to be one of the three quickest locked in, or one of the top three finishing open cars today, and get those three spots. And in this style of racing, you got to manage where you're at. You want to be careful you don't put yourself in a situation that takes you out of the race while you're trying to get into it.
Absolutely, and with the threat of the big one looming large around every corner, these guys are going to have to be on their toes for the entire distance if they're going to have any hope of making the big show. As we can now bring you the starting lineup for today's first 30-lap race, Chase Christ, the upset pole sitter for the Daytona 500. He starts on pole for this as well. If he can finish this race with an intact car, he will be your pole sitter for the Daytona 500 next week. Ben McDonald qualified third on pole day, lines up alongside him. Bronson Minnick, Miles Mashburn, Kev Shearer completes the top 5. Christ, Minnick, and Shearer locked in to the Daytona 500 on their qualifying times, so they're going to be in the race no matter what happens here tonight. But for several big names in the back of the field, this could be a big make-or-break moment. You got the guy who finished second in points last year, Roberto Crown Jr. He's on the outside looking in. Cale Tescar Jr. coming back after a sabbatical in 2023. He's got to make his way into the big race. Got a lot.
But I was gonna say, if you ask me, the big name though in this race is our reigning National Series champion, Zachary Dolello, starts shotgun on the field in this duel race. That's the one we're gonna have to watch to see if he can make it up here, because if there's any big name, that's the reigning champion of one of the big three series. It'd be a big story if he misses.
It certainly would be. He had an abysmal qualifying effort on last Sunday. Qualified 61st of 62. That's why he starts last in this duel. But he like the other 30 cars in this field, are focused on winning this race and locking into the big show next week. So with that being said, we've got 31 cars on the track ready to take the green flag. We are ready to bring you that action. This is the One-Up Superstar Series Daytona 500 Duel number 1, and the green flag is mere moments away from dropping on the field, so stay tuned for that. With 31 cars ready to take the green flag at Daytona, the pace car pulls on the pit road. Chase Christ, our upset pole sitter, and Ben McDonald on the front row. The green flag is out. We are underway for the first duel, and the Napa Ford and the Dr. Pepper Chevy lead us to the green flag. McDonald actually gets the better launch off the line. He's got to push from two more Chevys behind him in Miles Mashburn and J.D. Martin. Kev Shearer ducks out to the inside to make it 3 wide going into turn 1.
We're going to see a lot of this today as far as double file and 3 wide, because it's the nature of pack racing that you see when you come to these tracks. And already the 3 abreast will just have to watch and make sure they give each other the amount of room so we don't have an early incident here. As it looks like Ben McDonald is going to be able to lead him here off the back straightaway with the momentum on the top side. Chris trying to come back on the inside, as they are 3 abreast basically now from what appears to be 5th on back.
Yeah, 3 wide is easy enough for these guys to handle. 4 wide is a completely different story. You want to avoid that at all costs if you're going to have an intact race car at the end of these 30 laps. But Ben McDonald leads lap number 1 by 2/100ths of a second ahead of Chase Christ. They are 3 wide beyond them, and a couple of stragglers at the back. But so far, everybody's still in the lead group as we enter lap 2.
Already, we're going to be 3 abreast basically for the lead on back, and you mentioned about the 4 wide. It looks like they're trying to maybe stretch 4 wide, but they're going to think better of it and stay 3 wide. And man, 3 wide all the way back through the pack at the moment. As Ben McDonald's going to lead him into turn 3.
But look at this inside line. Daniel Bouchard with a push from Duke Ansack, Julio Caesar, Reggie Fogelman. They're trying to make some headway on the inside. But Chase Christ is the one I'm really worried about in the middle of the pack, trying to keep his car intact for the big race. But they are 4 wide behind them. Mashburn, Patrick Smith, Kev Shearer, and Duke Ansack. They're banging doors heading into 1.
And banging doors off each other, and somehow that is the reigning Truck Series champion in that 24. He's hanging on to it, but I don't like the position he's in still leaning on the car to his outside. And they're still somehow managing to hold that 4 wide.
So far, anyway, but Kev Shearer has got to be thinking about backing up to Ryan Arnold behind him in the 26. Maybe they'll let him in line. Hopefully they do, because they're coming off of turn 4 right now. And the big one strikes! Coming off of turn 4 on lap number 3, a big crash involved. DeLello involved. Miles Mashburn, Ryan Reed, Cody Goforth, Stanley Andrews, and a whole host of others involved. Caution flies for the first time on lap number 3.
Well, we called it. We knew there was no way they were going to maintain the 4 wide, and sure enough, off turn 4, they all came together. And unfortunately, that's probably going to be at least a good third of the field, maybe half the field affected by this, including those guys we talked about trying to race their way in. Some big names involved in that.
But Chase Christ is the one big name we were talking about that did make it through. He survives to fight another day, and he is your leader as we take the caution flag. But man, a lot of cars involved in this one. Miles Mashburn with a lot of damage. Bronson Minnick, he's locked into the 500 on his time, but he's got a lot of damage anyway. Jeff Bolton with some damage. Jake McMillan, pretty much it's easier to list the cars that don't have damage than to list the ones that do. Reggie Fogelman and the Mercedes with a lot of damage. Jake McMillan in his first official race with Honda got some damage. Patrick Smith with a ton as well in the 22.
Yeah, again, we said the 4 wide wasn't going to work out. It really, we talk about the big one happening anywhere on the racetrack. In this case, it basically happened right at the front of the field. So, not a lot of these guys could do to avoid it once it started.
And you can see now a lot of cars peeling off to pit here for some damage repairs. And we'll see how many of them can return to the racetrack. And for those that can't, that could be the end of their Daytona 500 hopes right there. We'll see, because Roberto Crown Jr., he's got some damage. He finished second in the points last year, but he's got some damage as well. Oh, and we got more contact in the pit lane. Tescar involved. Liam Nolan, I should say, and Jeff Bolton with some damage in there as well, and they still slamming into each other.
And they're still hitting each other.
It's a narrow pit lane at Daytona, but man, you'd think with all the damage they have, they'd be a little more contained. Oh, Justin Henley out of the race. He was in the shootout last week. His hopes of making the 500 dashed. Ryan Arnold's likewise out of the 500. Cale Tescar Jr. out of the 500. Liam Nolan, Stanley Andrews, and Yadis Terzic, all of whom were open cars trying to make the Daytona 500. None of them will.
We called it when we said that the 4 wide wasn't going to work out. And we see here, there's Kev right against the 22, and they kept banging doors and finally came together. And unfortunately, mayhem results behind him. As you see, the 95 was caught up. Goes around hard there. The 64, Cody Goldforth, is caught up.
41, Stanley Andrews also involved. He was trying to make the 500.
The 92, a Finn guy.
Nick Ortiz in the 91 involved. Fitzwater in the 59. Keon Daly. Zachary DeLello with a little bit of damage in the 08. Hopefully, he looks to be able to continue, but a lot of damage.
Yeah, DeLello doesn't look as too bad as some of these other cars, but it's like when they go for a wide here, they can't seem to stay together. As we look on board, DeLello showing his on board of this.
Yeah, and he just gets hit from both sides, and he's trying to keep the car away from everyone else, just trying to spin down to the infield, trying to get it rolling again. But look at all the cars get torn up. Keon Daly involved in this wreck. He's thankfully locked into the show, but a few others not so lucky. And look at all the carnage that's filling the tri-oval here at Daytona International Speedway. But looks like, yeah, DeLello is able to continue in this race, so he may still make the 500 yet, but for several big names hoping to make the 500. Justin Henley, Ryan Arnold, Cale Tescar Jr., Liam Nolan, Terzic, Stanley Andrews, all of whom knocked out of the Daytona 500 in this crash.
And as a driver, it pains me to see this because we know what the four wides can do. We've seen it on tracks like this before. There's room at Daytona to fit four cars, but the problem is you get to leaning on one another, and that's what happened in this case. Kev got against the 22 of Patrick Smith. They started leaning on one another, and eventually one car's gonna move as a result, and it just squished together off of four in that little short shoot there, and unfortunately everybody behind them, there's no real, once it starts happening, you're basically just trying to point through the smoke and find a way through. Sometimes you get lucky and sometimes you don't, and a lot of guys got unlucky today, and unfortunately it very well is going to mean them not making the 500.
We've got some spots up for grabs in the Daytona 500 still, and I expect these guys to go all out in their bid to try and get it.
And we'll have to see what happens here. We'll see if we see any more of the four wide. Obviously, we saw what happened when they tried to, so hopefully they'll curtail that to maybe near the end of this race to at least not have us wipe out more cars. As fighting with the green in the air, we're back under green here in Duel 1.
Chase Christ leads them back to the restart into the green flag. We're back underway once again. Julio Caesar's the first one to duck out of line, hoping that his teammate in the 87, Lane Sanders, will go with him. Looks like he's going to try to, but Caesar doing a nice job all by himself. He does eventually get Sanders behind him, and the two Sanders Performance Autosport cars are going to try and march their way towards the front, with possible help in hand from their fellow Dodge and Daniel Bouchard.
I'll say this, the best thing going for Julio right now is the fact that he does have his teammate and team owner right there, so that way, you got a little bit of a blocker, although it looks like Lane is actually going to go past him for that position, and looks like he's going to try even to take over second here from the 73, as Chris continues to lead the way as we'll complete lap 8 this time.
Yeah, we only have 8 cars in this lead group. Nick Ortiz doing his best to hang on in 9th position, but it looks like everybody else is too damaged to carry on in the lead group. But what is important is that while Caesar and Napoli are in this lead group, and they're probably going to race their way into the 500 with this position in the lead group, there is still one more spot up for grabs, and right now it's that 08 of Zachary DeLello that holds it.
Yeah, I was just going to point out, it looked like I saw the 95 trailing behind Ortiz, and I saw that orange 08 get to his inside. So yeah, I think you're right. I think DeLello right now is the one who has that final spot. As here we are again, they're 3 wide, and this time it's team owner and employee, I guess, making it 3 wide here with their fellow Dodge driver for second place.
3 Dodges playing defense for the Ford of Chase Christ, although Caesar now gets back in line to try and push Lane Sanders to the lead. But we've got a lot of good cars in this group. Chase Christ, the pole sitter, Ben McDonald, Duke Ansak's there, J.D. Martin, who missed out on victory lane last year. He wants to start his season off on the right way. But here comes Lane Sanders now to the inside. He's won this race, the big race before, and now he wants to add a dual win to his name. Here he comes underneath the 15.
And Sanders was very kind of upset about how they ran the playoffs last year, not really being able to make much noise. So how would you be able to put that behind you, come out here at Daytona and have a strong run? And so far in this dual race, trying to see if he can get the lead from Chris, who pretty much, again, seems to have the quickest car at the moment. As we look back here, here's DeLello leading this second group. Again, currently the car in the last transfer spot, as the 95 is trying to catch him for that.
It looks as though it's going to be a battle between the 08, the 95, and if you look back there, you also see that red and black 55 of Roberto Crone Jr. Those 3 are going to be the ones fighting it out for this one last transfer spot because Napoli and Caesar continue to pull away from them while they're in this lead group. I fully expect, barring another yellow flag, that those 2 are fairly safe, but as you know, anything can happen here at Daytona.
Yeah, and I'll say this too. If I'm the spotters of the camp of the 00 and 61, if we know we're in the spot we are and with the gap we are, let's try to. I hate to say it, but you almost said the term co-opetition. Let's try to work together to get away from those other guys, and that way if we settle the race between us, but at least build a big enough gap so we know we're making the race. So, Sanders Looks like he's going to try to take the lead, and I think he's firmly going to get it here, possibly.
But he's not clear of Chase Chris, not yet, but he will lead this lap at the line. Lane Sanders, your new leader at Daytona. But you see the gap between this group and the group led by Zachary DeLello. It was 5 seconds the margin, now it's 6 seconds. These 9 cars, the 8 in the lead group plus Nick Ortiz, they're starting to pull away from, they've been pulling away from Zachary DeLello and his group. So I would fully expect, barring another caution flag, that Caesar, yes, you see, look in the middle lane, Caesar and Napoli, they're working together because they have to at this point. They know that if they can finish right where they're at, they'll be in the Daytona 500.
And that's why I said they got this big enough group among the, or away from that other group. They don't have to worry about that hornet's nest. Just kind of ride here. You're in at this point, and just kind of ride these laps out. If you guys get a chance to go race each other for the win, go ahead at the, as the laps wind down. But right now, just ride here, build that gap, and try to make it so that you're more firmly in a position to make the 500. But the other thing that's going to be interesting to watch is I'm sure the other teams that are getting ready for Duel 2, and including myself, are watching this, taking notes of what we're seeing, because you have this group of 9 that is out here by themselves. The other group, yeah, granted, we had the big incident that damaged a lot of cars, and that may be what's affecting the second group. But the fact that this little group, that group of 9 is out there by themselves and is able to race each other and still gain time on those other cars, something we're going to have to keep an eye on for later tonight and for the 500 on Sunday.
Another thing to keep our eye on, Reggie Fogelman did get past Zachary DeLello into the final transfer spot. The 95 holds that for now. So as they run right now, we'd have 3 IDA Mercedes in the field for the Daytona 500. The 75, who's in on his points, albeit he's out of the race right now, plus the 61 and 95. And another thing to note about Caesar and Napoli, neither of them have been in any sort of one-up race before, and here they are in the top 8.
Just goes to show you, sometimes maybe it's the first start magic that seems to work for some guys, as we've seen before. It's just going to be interesting to watch how this all unfolds, as we're still 3 wide here for the lead. Still maintaining it pretty good. You got Martin on the bottom there with the aforementioned 61. You got Sanders in the middle with the 83 of Duke and Zach. And then you got the upper lane, again, Chase Chris still in that 15 with the aforementioned Julio Caesar behind him. So 3 distinct lanes here. No real advantage, seems like, although it looks like more cars on the top lane is going to allow the top lane to prevail here. Sanders leads.
But yeah, Sanders has a comfortable lead, but he really wants his teammate Julio Caesar up there to get past the 15 and 83 in order to help defend and try and get a Sanders Performance Autosport 1-2 in this duel. But if there's still just under half the race to go, a lot can still happen. But it looks like these 9 are going to settle it between them. Duke Ansack, he missed out on victory lane last year. He missed the playoffs for the first time ever last season. He wants to rebound in a big way. I'm sure he'll do it this year. And here we go, side by side for the final transfer spot, Fogelman and DeLello.
And don't look now, but you mentioned him earlier about the 55. He's a couple cars back from these guys, but he's still in the picture, and sometimes it's all you need to be is in the picture for something to happen. So, well, these guys continue to dice, and obviously the lead pack continues to dice. You don't know. You got to keep fighting. You never know if that door may open up.
Yeah, and you see Roberto Crown Jr., he's doing what he can to try and get past these guys. He's getting past DeLello now while pushing Zachary Fitzwater through. And if he can get up past the 95, he would be in a position to transfer into the 500. But now we go back to the main group, and like I said, it's a Spa 1-2 at the moment, although Chase Chris trying to push past Caesar. These guys are, the Spa boys are trying to defend both lanes at the same time, and so far they're doing a pretty good job of it.
I'll tell you what's impressive too is to watch that 15. As strong as we saw him on qualifying day, and as quick as that car was single car, they appear to have an even better race car. The way that car has been able to move along here in the pack, and here we go. He's going to try to retake the point from Sanders with help from that 12, and the 12 of Ben McDonald got a piece of the early incident and is still running up here. So, that 12 may not be as badly damaged, so watch out for him too.
Yeah, Chase Christ proving today he's got a good qualifying car and a good race car. And so far, unless another caution comes out and he gets involved in it, he will be starting on pole for the Daytona 500. And I can't imagine he wouldn't want a dual win to go with that pole run. Considering the season he had a year ago, this would be a great redemption story.
Yeah, I think the other big story is if he were, you sit on the pole, you win your dual race, and then possibly could you sweep it? That would be a big story going into Sunday if he's able to win this dual race tonight.
Yeah, but he's got a lot of competition to deal with. As Fogelman, we're looking back at the second group, he takes the final transfer spot once again from Zachary DeLello, who's now stuck on the high lane all by himself. But back here now, we have the two Spa cars running nose to tail again. This time it's Sanders pushing Caesar, so it'll be interesting to see if the experienced Lane Sanders can push his rookie teammate to the lead, but they separate to try and gang up on Chase Christ.
I'll be honest, at least at this point, obviously we can't count anybody out of this lead pack, but it looks right now, at least the battle for the win here in this duel appears to be between the two Spa Dodges and that Ford of Chris, so we'll see which one comes out on top here, or if it's one of these other guys in this lead pack that's able to take it at the line. I mean, we got 10 to go now, basically 9.5 as they hit the back straightaway, with Caesar now out front of Sanders. And again, this lead pack, again, just staying close together, this 9-car pack, somebody's going to win this dual race.
And keep in mind, there are slow cars out there with a lot of damage. We could see that this lead group catch up to some of those. We've been keeping an eye on guys like Ryan Reed in the 28, Cody Goforth, Kev Shearer. They're running several seconds off the pace, and I would not be surprised if this group caught them. That could really change the outcome of this race.
As they're 3 wide again, this time the 61 in the middle. And again, they just keep pulling away from so pretty much it is these 9 cars that are going to settle it. And as you said, if they catch, some of these lap cars that are damaged, it could jumble this lead pack, and it could determine who wins this race, because we'll be coming to 8 to go here in this duel.
Yeah, Lane Sanders so far is enjoying a comfortable lead. And here's the lap group, and they're only about half a straightaway ahead. You saw Reed, Goforth, and Shearer. They've also caught the 4 of Zayden Davidson. They're running in a small group of 4 together. But they're still quite a ways off the pace, and I wouldn't be surprised if this group, yeah, you can see this foursome coming off of 2, and looking back towards the leaders, they're off of 2 now, so I would not be surprised if these guys got caught in the next few laps.
And what we're going to see is when they catch them, we're going to have to see who goes where and where the lap cars hold their line, because that could break up this lead pack as well, too. So we may even eliminate guys for the chance of possibly winning this dual race, as well as determine who's going to have a chance to win the dual race. And with 7 to go, I mean, this pretty much is going to be the race how they negotiate these 4 lap cars.
And they are here. The leaders have caught the lap traffic. They're about like 10 car lengths behind. Christ and Caesar lead the way. But here comes Shearer, here comes Reed, Goforth, and Davidson. These guys are all trying to navigate the traffic.
Almost 3 wide in front of them now. This is not going to be good, because the lap cars are 3 wide in front of them. That's going to cause the pack to go 3 wide.
Coming.
And look, right now, they almost 4, and there goes Shearer.
Shearer into the wall.
Shearer's around.
Caution is out for the second time, and that does split the pack up. Lane Sanders with a small bit of damage in the 87, and who comes out of this that's with the lead? It's Duke Ainsack in the 83 that leads them back to the caution flag.
Now we'll have to see this on replay, but I believe the 15 may have some slight nose damage. I think he got into one of the cars, but it may be very, very slight.
And what this also does, it catches this group back up to the leaders. And we're only going to have about 1 or 2 laps to settle this race. So those guys are not out of it. Caesar and Napoli are not locked in at this moment.
Yeah, that's true. We got to keep that in mind. I mean, we're still racing for the top 3 open cars, so it's not guaranteed to give it to them yet.
And new for this season is a wave around system that One Up is implementing, and the first recipient will be Ryan Reed in the 28. He's the first car off the lead lap at this point, and he will get his lap back under this new system. So you see, the lap cars were 3 wide in front of
And
the lead
I was gonna
group.
say what happens here is Anzac tries to get under Kev Shear, Kev tries to give him room, and instead the 24 just gets hooked and right in front of the leaders. And amazing we didn't have more people involved in that.
It looks like Kev Shearer will be done for today. Thankfully for him, he is locked in to the Daytona 500 on his qualifying speed. Get you another angle of this soon, but tough break for the 24.
I feel
you're right.
I feel
It is
kind of
Anzac
bad
trying
for
to
Kev
force-
because
yeah.
I feel bad for Kev because that's 2 instances. I think he was trying to give room to the car on the inside, and unfortunately wasn't enough clear of the car that was to his outside, and in this case he got hooked. In the first incident, they were door to door and just fender banging, and I feel bad for Kev. I know there's people that are going to look at this and blame him for both incidences, but really he was trying to give room to the person to the inside, and both times he was trying to give room to the car to the inside, and you can't run 4 wide here. It's just there's room enough to run 4 wide, but when you're that close running that far from each other, things are going to happen. And unfortunately for Kev Shearer, he was at the center of both of them.
And we can now say for certain Cody Goforth's bid to make the Daytona 500 is over. He is out of the race and will not make one of those transfer spots. But we're going to be coming to we still under the caution flag, and there's 4 laps of racing to go. At most, we're going to have 2 laps to decide this because we got to go cycle 1 more lap like this. Then the pace car's lights will turn off and we'll do 1 more lap like that, and then we may get a 2-lap shootout to decide this. But this running order has been jumbled up quite a bit. You now have the 2 Chevrolets of Anzac and McDonald 1-2. Nick Ortiz up to 3rd with that car who's been running at the back of the group all the time.
I was just going to say that 91 car has been lurking there, and now here he is running 3rd. Watch out for him. Obviously, we've seen what the 15 can do today. He's sitting there in 4th. Then you have the 66 of Martin, Martin and the 73 of Bouchard have been a part of this lead group pretty much since the first incident. So you can't rule them out. You know, they may have been riding this whole time.
And then you have Caesar, Napoli, and Sanders, 7th, 8th, and 9th. Those guys are a little further back than they want to be. But for Caesar and Napoli, this could be a big concern because look at these 3 cars right here. Reggie Fogelman, Zachary DeLello, Roberto Crown Jr. They are now caught up to the lead group, and now we're going to have 5 cars going for 3 spots in the Daytona 500 with potentially only 2 laps to settle it.
The thing that I think is going to help Caesar and Napoli here is we know those cars don't have any damage to them. So we've seen what they can do. The problem for them with the pack being brought back together here, you jump in the wrong line and lose your momentum. They may not have any damage to their car, but they could lose their spot to the 500 just from the dicing we see here late in this thing, especially with only 2 laps to go, possibly.
So 5 cars enter, 3 cars leave with a spot in the big race. And we'll take a look at the pace car right here. Lights go out. We're going to have 2 laps of racing to decide those 3 spots in the Daytona 500. Duke Anzac leads this race. He's locked in. Nothing to worry about for him. And in fact, that's the case for the entire top 6.
The other thing we got to bear in mind here, obviously we've seen it already twice in this race. If we get a caution, then the race is over. It's a race back to the line. Whoever gets there is how they're going to come across. So we'll have to keep that in mind. We got 2 green flag laps possible. But if the caution comes out during that run, it's whoever makes it back to the line. So we may have to keep an eye on that as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And Duke Anzac's in the best possible position now. He's leading this race, and he's got another Chevy behind him in Ben McDonald to hopefully be his friend. And maybe J.D. Martin if he can get up there. 3 different teams represented among those drivers, but they're all wearing that bright bow tie, and they're all going to be trying to make it to victory lane for Chevrolet in this race because they got the Honda of Nick Ortiz, the Ford of Chase Christ, the Dodge of Daniel Bouchard and Julio Cesar, and the Mercedes of Napoli.
And the other thing we have to keep in mind too, with the exception of the 15 of Chris, the winner of this race starts third in the 500. So that's the thing. That's the award. That's basically the award that these guys are racing for by trying to win this dual race. That's a great starting spot for the 500. So, that's what's on the line here. So, and every position on this track is another position up in the row that you would be starting on Sunday. So,
yeah,
these guys are going to have
and as we've
the
seen,
rewards in front of them.
As we've seen in this duel, third place could get you the lead on lap 1 if the pole sitter decides to go up the track a little bit. But we are 2 laps away from deciding 3 more spots in the Daytona 500. It's Anzac, McDonald, Ortiz, Kristen Martin, your top 5. Green flag back in the air. We're underway once again.
And I see already Caesar jumping out of line in the 02 in the 00. Trying to use that top lane, trying to get with his teammate. I think that's what he was trying to do, was shuffle out to get with his teammate. I also see the 95 there on the low line.
Yeah. Oh, but Sanders goes to push the 61 instead. What I think Sanders is trying to do is to get get Caesar behind him to try and pull him towards the front. But you're right. Now Fogelman's all over the back of Julio Cesar trying to get this spot, and Delello's there as well. So is Roberto Crown Jr. We're coming to the white flag this time, and any one of them could miss the 500.
Fogelman's got it. Fogelman, as much as he wants to get the top 2, he's in a spot right now. He has to watch out for that yellow plate that he doesn't get past. Well, they'll come to the white flag this time. Anzac in the 83 is the leader. Can he maintain it? Can he hang on to it?
Next flag ends the race. We're 1 lap from home here at Daytona. Bell lap for Duke Anzac. He leads them into turn 1. Ortiz gets a push from McDonald going into 1. J.D. Martin on the bottom. Now it's Napoli up the middle trying to make some noise in the 61.
Anzac might be in the catbird seat. Ortiz the only one close enough. He doesn't really have any help at the moment. Napoli trying to make that middle work. Is able to drive through to third. Here comes Chris back in the 15.
Reggie Fogelman holding the final spot in the 500 for now. Coming through 3 and 4 for the final time. Duke Anzac, after missing out on victory lane last year, is going to try and make it happen.
Look at the 61 up to second.
Napoli up to second. He's going to make the 500. Duke Anzac's going to win this duel. And at the last gasp, Zachary DeLello passed Reggie Fogelman. The 08 Fair & Co. Toyota will be in the Daytona 500 next Sunday.
How about that finish? Napoli almost. I think if Napoli had another lap, he might have been able to get that 83, but he's in the race, as is the 00 Caesar and a reigning National Series champion, Zachary DeLello, who started shotgun on the field in this duel, will race on Sunday.
But you gotta feel for Reggie Fogelman, though. He was in position on the final lap to make this race. But Zachary DeLello just got the slingshot from heaven he needed. He will be in the 500 instead. Reggie Fogelman will not race in the 500. And after finishing second in points a season ago, Roberto Crown Jr. starts 2024 with a DNQ as well. The 55 also misses out.
And how about Duke Anzac? Nobody really talked about him here through qualifying or the early part of this duel. I mean, he was in the lead group, but he's the one sitting in victory lane at the end of duel 1.
And Chase Christ, he kept the car in one piece. He'll start on the pole for the 500 as well. And for Ryan Reed, his hopes of making the 500 are dashed. Even though he got that free pass late, he will not race in the 500 either. But with that, we only have 3 more spots to settle in the big race. And that's with duel number 2 coming up shortly here at Daytona International Speedway. Looks like you got to go change into your race suit because you're leading them to the green this time.
Yeah, we'll hope that hopefully we can do a little better than Chris did here. At least keep the car in one piece like he did, and hopefully we'll do a couple spots better than he did. I think he ended up 4th in this one, so we'll see if we can do a couple spots better.
Absolutely. Well, that was an incredible first duel race. Congrats on Duke Anzac for winning the show, and congratulations to Ignazio Napoli, Julio Cesar, and Zachary DeLello for making the big race. We'll see you again in just a moment for duel number 2 to see which 3 drivers from that race will join them in racing at the biggest spectacle of them all. And after a wild Duel 1 that sees 3 drivers make the Daytona 500 racing their way in, we re-rack them and do it all over again with the second half of the field. This is Duel number 2 of the 1UP Superstar Series Daytona 500, and we're ready to bring you another 30 laps of hard-pounding racing action that only we can provide. And alongside me to bring you all the action for this race is Miles Mashburn, who is in Duel number 1. So you know what it's like to be out there with 30 other drivers battling, with some with nothing left to lose. So these guys in Duel 2, they've got a lot on their plates to deal with as we take to the track today.
Yeah, it's going to be great to be able to see this from the booth, since there's not much of a chance for me to do it. But now I get to see it after racing in it. I get to see it from a different perspective now and see just how chaotic it is from a viewer standpoint. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely, and we can quickly bring you the starting order for today's 30-lap Duel number 2. Ryan Griffin he's locked himself into the Daytona 500 on pole day. He lines up on the pole for this race alongside two-time champion Christian Vargas. Joshua Michaels in third starting spot and Brejhan Stojanovic in the 98. They are locked into the Daytona 500 no matter what, based on their qualifying time, so they are good, but there are a handful of drivers in this race that really need to make something happen. So, of these drivers, we got some big names that could very well miss the field here today. Brandon Beal, Bobo Jones, they're all trying to make the big race, and at this point, I'm just trying to figure out who's in the most danger, I feel, because there's a lot of drivers with some inexperience in the grid, there's a lot of veterans here as well, but putting them together could be a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, I would say that, especially when you have a 31-car duel with so many drivers fighting super hard to get in, that there's a high chance for a big crash, especially early on. So there's going to be, some strategy if you want to get to the front quickly, or maybe hang in the back and see if you can survive for a bit, have a better chance at the end.
Which strategy will prevail, we'll find out in 30 laps time. So all 31 cars in this duel are ready to rock and roll, and so are we. This is the 1UP Daytona 500 Duel 2, and the green flag is moments away from falling. Let's get the show on the road once again. With Ryan Griffin and Christian Vargas on the front row getting ready to set the final 3 spots in the Daytona 500. Duel number 2, heading into the zone, the green flag is in the air, and for 30 laps, we're underway. Ryan Griffin gets a good jump off the line. He leads Christian Vargas heading out of the tri-oval, but no help from behind could give the advantage to the 54s. We already see a couple cars fan out 3 wide going into turn 1.
Yeah, they're going to be building up speed all through the first half a lap here, so maybe even the first entire lap. And when they get to speed is when they're really going to start getting runs and seeing what moves they make. And we'll see what drivers want to make moves early and what drivers are going to wait in the back. It's a big field. So far, everyone's still together as they try to get to speed on the backstretch.
And I saw a little bit of contact between Christian Vargas and Austin Runkle in the number 5 machine. That's the green car on the inside line, pushing Joshua Michaels, who locked himself into the 500 on a qualifying speed. He's going to take the lead from Ryan Griffin on the first lap. Let's see if he can lead lap number 1. And he clears. He comes up to block the 02, and it looks like he should be able to lead the first lap comfortably.
Yeah, looking good for his full-time return to the Superstar Series, as he's racing with some other veterans right now, as well as some rookies. Austin Runkle, a rookie this season, up front trying to get the lead back, moving up to the middle to block, and it might leave the bottom open.
It does leave the bottom open for AJ Jones in the number 31 for Team Duke. He gets a push from Mark Davey in the new 97 for Louisville Motorsports, and behind them, Ryan Soper in another Honda for D4 Motorsports. They're heading the inside line. Runkle and Stojanovic in the middle, Michaels and Griffin up top as they come off turn 4, 3 wide, 10 rows deep.
Ooh. Yeah, getting really close already. I wouldn't be surprised to see more contact in these early laps, 3x3 all the way through the field. It's already very intense as drivers try to stick to their line and see if they can get a run up to the front.
Michaels led lap 2. I'm not sure if he'll be able to lead the third one, though, because AJ Jones
gets looking 4 wide.
It's a big head of steam down the back straightaway. It looks like they're about to go 4 wide. I see contact, perhaps, between Michaels and Runkle in the middle. We'll see if Jones takes the opportunity to make it 4 wide. He does, diving it down to the inside, going 4 wide for the lead. Ryan Griffin backs out. Wise decision from him, and we'll see 3 wide once again off of 4.
I've always said that a 4 wide at Daytona is pretty dangerous. Looks like might be doing it again here across the start-finish line. But I almost never see a 4 wide run at Daytona go well. It's good so far, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yep, here comes Mark Davey on the inside, leaving his drafting partner A.J. Jones in the middle. With a push from Ryan Soper, moved the two Hondas up to the front of the field. Mark Davey quickly moves up to block the oncoming traffic. As now Soper makes it 4 wide with Jones, Runkle, and Michaels going into turn 3. It's still 4 wide. Amazing stuff that they haven't wrecked yet. However, it's going to take a lot of effort as Ryan Soper moves to the lead in the 84.
Imagine the pressure of having to hold off 4 lanes behind you. It's already enough just to have 2 or even 1.
Oh, we got trouble!
Oh, there they go. In the
Big
wall.
wreck!
Soper down into another car as well.
Ryan Soper from the lead crashes. Jason Parker involved. Aguo Zhao in the 99. Austin Runkle, Devin Fair. More cars involved in this one. We've got a big melee on the front straightaway on lap number 5. And Joshua Michaels in the 6 was involved. Ryan Griffin in the 02. He needed to have a good day today to keep his front row starting spot. Now, he has to hope he can finish this race under his own power, or else he'll go to the back of the field for race day.
Yeah, there is that crash that we thought was a good possibility to happen with some of that aggression that we definitely saw. And we're going to have to take a look at the replay. But that wreck is definitely going to be a huge setback, if not just a game over for some of these drivers that we're trying to get in today.
Yeah, you see Brendan Beal with a lot of damage. Echo Evans Ross with some damage. Ryan Soper from the lead. He's got some minor damage on the front end, but he is able to make it back to the line under his own power in 8th place. Ryan Caggiano is your leader. He somehow made it through the carnage. But you're right. We've got a lot of cars that could find themselves knocked out of the Daytona 500, not even after 5 laps have been completed.
We've still got a lot more to go, so could be one of those races where it settles down a bit in the later stages, but I wouldn't be so sure about that because there are still a lot of cars going for just 3 spots, as well as, drivers who want to try to get a good position for the 500. They're racing for a second row starting position.
You see Austin Runkle making his way into the pit lane. I believe he's going to be done for the day in that number 5 machine. He pulls it into his pit, and yes, he will be out of the race. And I believe Devin Fair will be as well, our shootout winner from a week ago, also out of the race. We're going to get you a replay of what happens to all these cars. We've only have a handful of cars unscathed from this. Echo Evans, Ross, Dylan Young, they pull it to pit road, trying to see if they can continue in this race. Emma Kruger back there, Nathan Stapleton, the 27. About half the field's coming in for damage repair, and I'm surprised it's not more.
Well, yeah, we'll have to take a look at just how big that crash was, but I guess the good thing about so many cars pitting is that you're not at risk of losing as many spots if you have to come to pit road for repairs, but it's still going to be a big setback for pretty much everyone who is heading down right now.
It is a big setback because any damage at all here at Daytona is going to be pretty bad with how much aero is an issue here. Joshua Michaels out of the race, but thankfully for him, he's locked into the 500 on his time. Zach Rogers re-enters the race minus a front clip. Let's see if Ryan Griffin makes it back out. He's the one we need to keep our eye on. If he can't get back on the racetrack, he will forfeit his second place starting spot. As we get to a replay now. It looks like Soper is trying to block 4 lanes at once. I think Runkle actually gets into the back of A.J. Jones. That's what sets it off, and Soper just barely gets tipped sideways, collects Jason Parker, and from there it's just mayhem.
Yeah, there is so much going on. It's one of those wrecks that just kind of happened quickly. Like Soper, was trying to defend 4 lanes. He wanted to be up there, and then you had a car stuck in the middle pretty much by themselves, and it just kind of broke loose from there.
Lots of damaged cars, and A.J. Jones from the lead gets taken out of this one fairly early on. We'll look at this once again. A.J. Jones was trying to get back up in the line, but Runkle had a nose on him, and that's all it takes for everybody to just start piling in one after the other. wall of smoke comes up from all these cars. James Ellison, though, in that blue and gray number 3 car, does a fantastic job weaving his way through the
31
wreckage.
car. AJ Jones with a just multiple hits there. His car bouncing around. That's a lot of damage on that car. No wonder that he had to end his day.
We're riding on board now with James Ellison. He was riding right at the back of the field, and he can see the wreck starting in front of him, and that's all he can do now to just slow down and avoid as much as he can. He heads straight into the smoke, but thankfully, it's like the seas part for him. Look at how well he's able to pick his way through the wreckage.
Yeah, I don't think I could word it better there. That is just pretty, a lot of luck with also some skill. There was some really good maneuvering there. That's how you can tell that this is a driver that belongs here in the series.
And that may have just saved James Ellison's efforts to make the Daytona 500 right there. It looks like actually our leader going into this caution, Ryan Caggiano, he actually made a pit stop there. He didn't have any damage to speak of. Maybe he's worried he ran over some debris on the track. They put some fresh tires on it to alleviate that concern. But my worry now is his car is intact, but he's got so many damaged cars in front of him. If he gets held up by any of them, that could spell the end of his bid to make the 500.
Well, they do say better be safe than sorry, and we've already seen that with some of this racing has not been the most safe, and we've seen drivers be sorry from it. So maybe just taking that precaution, it's a big risk, but it could save his day possibly, depending on what it was.
It could. I'm just worried about all those cars he's got to pass, and they may hold him up a little bit. But we're going to hopefully get the one-to-go signal this time. Brejhan Stojanovic in the 98. He won at Talladega last year for this team, and he is back for another part-time schedule. He's going to run this race and a handful of others for Farinca Racing. The pace car, let's see if the lights go out. They should. They do. We're going to have one more lap under yellow, and then we'll get back into racing. It'll be Stojanovic out front, Aaron Hall second, Brandon Beal, Stephen Gale, and Ryan Soper. He did get spun out in that big wreck, but he managed to avoid major damage. He still runs in the top 5, just ahead of Egor Zhao. And as they run right now, it would be Zhao, Soper, and Brandon Beal in the transfer spots at this moment.
Yeah, they're going to get back going single file, so I'm wondering how quickly it'll be for them to get back to that constant 3 wide that we were seeing earlier, because I do think it will happen again. But it's going to be a very important decision where you're going to go on this restart to have the best position for the following laps.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because we've got a few less cars in the field. We've got 5 cars eliminated. Emma Kruger, AJ Jones, Joshua Michaels, Austin Runkle, and Devin Fair. They're all out of the race. But thankfully for them, they are all locked into the Daytona 500. It just means they'll have to start at the back. But we have all our transfer drivers still in the race. The question is, who among them will fill those 3 spots and who will go home empty-handed? We're about to find out because we're going to take another restart in about half a lap's time.
Yep, still going to be a big battle for those 3 spots, and the pressure is on.
The pressure absolutely is on. These drivers and these teams have been working all winter for this opportunity, this moment, and thankfully they're all still in the race. Some a little more damaged than others, but we will see which 3 drivers will get to race in the Daytona 500 this next weekend and who will go home empty-handed. They come off turn 4 now, the pace car getting ready to make the hard left turn on the pit road, leaving us in the hands of Brejhan Stojanovic, Aaron Hall, Brandon Beal, and the rest of the field. We're back underway at Daytona.
We already see the 07 looking on the high side, and they're already spreading out to go 2, maybe 3 wide back there.
Yeah, Hall tries to get a jump on the outside of Stojanovic. He's going to have a little help from Brandon Beal in the 37. Stojanovich's help from the 52 of Stephen Gale, who is locked into the race. Ryan Soper is going to try and jump down to that inside line with a push from Zhao and from William Brock. Bobo Jones making his way up the middle in that blue car. He has made every single race in 1UP Superstar Series history, but that could be in jeopardy today. If he's not in those transfer spots, he could be going home for the first time ever.
Yeah, that would be a little historic, I would say. So he's got a little extra pressure, but I'm sure that team is, they have a dependable driver that can make starts, so they're counting on him. That probably just increases the pressure for him more, especially with where we see him now.
And you saw his teammate Stephen Gale lead that last lap ahead of Stojanovic and Hall. But you're right, Bobo Jones for Venta Motorsport. This is an elite level team, one of the top Chevrolet teams in the Superstar Series. If they miss the Daytona 500 with a driver like Bobo Jones, that would be a major upset in the making. But so far, he's doing what he needs to do. He's in one of those transfer spots at the moment by the skin of his teeth as James Ellison comes storming up the inside. We saw he came out of that big one unscathed. Now he's trying to push Stephen Gale back to the lead and see if he can't take it himself.
We're seeing a big breakaway, a bit of a breakaway with these top 5 cars that are looking to...
Whoa!
There they go below the track.
Stojanovic and Gale, can they save it? They can! Unbelievable stuff from Greyhound Stojanovic and from Stephen Gale at 199 miles per hour. They were able to save those cars, and they didn't even lose their positions.
I may have saw a third car back in the grass as well. You see one out of the pack, but it is incredible that they were able to keep going. And here they are with Aaron Hall in the lead.
With a push from William Brock, here comes James Ellison to the inside, trying to establish himself as a contender to make the Daytona 500 for Crossroads Racing, make their first start in the big race. Here he comes with a push from Sam Donato. He started this race back in 23rd position, and he's already made his way up into the top 10. But William Brock led that lap. You see, Ryan Caggiano back here. I was right in my worry about him. He did manage to clear all those damaged race cars, but now he's lost the pack in a big way. Without another caution, he might miss the big race.
Yeah, I think that incident really messes him up, and he is going to pretty much have to rely on another caution. I don't think those cars back there could draft back up to this pack we have going on up front as you see a move on the bottom pushing for the lead.
How about James Ellison, car number 3, trying to make a move here. Aaron Hall swoops down to the inside, trying to give him a push. Here he comes now with William Brock to his outside. Ellison across the line. He does lead that lap by a very slim margin over to 93, but now Aaron Hall makes a move to the inside, trying to take the top spot from him, but he can afford to give it up for now. He just has to make sure he's in one of those top 3 spots, which right now is occupied by himself, Bobo Jones, and how about the 60, KJ Hayes making a move up the middle.
Yep, already seeing those comers and goers today. If you have a bit of a defined front pack now that are going to be vying it out, and there are likely some drivers that need to race in up here.
And boy are they. We've got 4 of them in the middle groove. Ellison, Bobo Jones, KJ Hayes, and Andronico in the 50. Oh, and they're wrecking again!
Oh, there they go.
It's Bobo Jones, James Ellison, KJ Hayes, all those cars I was just talking about. Stephen Gale upside down.
Pretty much everyone in the lead pack and then some. There they go, cars up in the air.
A big crash. Once again on the front straightaway has brought out caution for the second time today. KJ Hayes was having such a strong run in that 60 car. He was doing a great job. James Ellison, we had talked so much about him. He made a charge up to the front. Now he's got a lot of damage. Jason Parker, his hopes to make the Daytona 500 dashed. Brandon Beal as well. Yeah, there's Brandon Beal. His car is smoking terribly, and now he can't even steer the car. He's going up into the wall, and his hopes of making the Daytona 500 are gone as well.
Yeah, just gone in a flash, as they say. More drivers' chances over. It is unfortunate. That's just what you come to watch every time you have a duel, and it's going to work out for some and not for others. But I am curious to see what caused that incident up front.
James Ellison somehow made it across the line in 4th place. Ryan Soper dodged another bullet. He makes it through in 6th. Wow. This is a big break for Ryan Caggiano. He not only avoided the wreck, now he's caught up with the rest of the front runners. So, big moment for the 81 team.
Yes, a fair amount of luck required at Daytona. Something like that is what's going to get him back in the game. But it's still up to them to execute and get into the race.
And now with two BTB Motorsports cars out of the race in Beal and Parker, that leaves the team with only one hope to make the Daytona 500, and it's the rookie Nathan Stapleton in the 27. He's their last chance to make the Daytona 500 or face a triple DNQ for that team, and that would really hurt if that were to be the case.
Yeah, that would be a heartbreaker for that team, especially with how much effort these teams put into getting to the track and wanting to make the big day. You want to have at least one of your cars get in, and that's one of the many stories we're going to be looking at before this next restart.
And here comes James Ellison to the pit lane. He did such a good job missing that first wreck. Not so lucky in the second one. He pulls it down pit road with a crunched up front end, a busted rear end as well. We'll see if he can get it back out there. But if he can't, that'll mark Crossroads Racing's bid to enter the Daytona 500 over. As Ellison pulls it in, we'll see if he looks like they're going to try and fix this car. Hopefully they do, because this was a very fast race car underneath this car.
At the rate this race is going, well, we see a car out of the race there, but at the rate this race is going, those open cars, even if they just get back on track, even laps down, you never know. There could be so few open cars left that they could make it in on that.
So coming off of turn 4, Ellison's got the field pretty much in his control here. But, Hayes gets into Brock, and that just collects everybody behind him. It's like a self-cleaning racetrack. They all drift up to the top side. Stephen Gale on his roof for a good portion of that. Ryan Caggiano, a great dodge to the left to avoid rear-ending Ryan Soper in the 84. And Justin Whitmer was hanging and that beige car was hanging out in the back in the 96. He dodges another one. But a lot of cars with a lot of damage that could end their hopes to make the big race. Yeah, it's pretty much a simple story of one car getting into another to try clearing himself. Didn't quite work. Igor Zhao tips the 52 onto his roof. And all these guys back here do an amazing job of not getting caught up in this somehow. You see Ryan Griffin, he's been able to continue in this race. He'll still be able to continue in this race through his wreck avoidance here, but for Stephen Gale, he's locked into the 500, but his duel is over. And Bobo Jones, 130 consecutive starts in the 1UP Superstar Series will come to an end this week. He will not make the Daytona 500. He is done for the day. KJ Hayes out of the race. He will not make the 500. Igor Zhao out of the race. He will miss out, as will Parker and Beal. Those are your open cars knocked out of the field in this duel number 2. Heartbreak for Bobo Jones. He has never missed a race in his career until today.
Wow, that is some major developments, and there's still over 10 laps to go in this race. There's still a lot more that could happen, and there are still cars with a chance to make it or not make it into the main event.
As of right now, we've got about maybe a lap and a half to go till we go back racing again. As of right now, Sam Donotto and Aaron Hall, they're leading a Game Breaker Racing 1-2 at the front. And the free transfer spots right now currently being held by Chris Lattimore in 3rd, Ryan Soper in 5th, and Andreas Andronico in the 50 for Paladin Racing. He posted a surprisingly good qualifying lap back on pole day. He's currently 6th, but he does have Ryan Caggiano breathing down his neck in a fully intact car. I would expect the 81 to make a big surge to the front.
Yeah, that is a rookie in that 50 car. And so, a situation like this, that is one of the stories we're looking at here. If they manage to pull it off, it's going to be a big win for this team.
You see James Ellison at the back of the field. He is able to continue on the lead lap, although he's going to be really slow for the rest of the race. His hopes of making the 500 could be over as well. And that's hard to bear witness to for Crossroads Racing. They put so much effort into this race. They raced the shootout last week with Justin Henley. Now they've got nothing to show for it. But the lights are out on the pace car. We will be going green this next time they cross the start-finish line with Sam Donotto leading this race. And if he can win this duel, he'll be sitting pretty for a 4th place start in the great race. It's going to be Denoto out front, Aaron Hall second, Chris Lattimore third. We only have 19 cars still in this race after all these accidents we've had. Stojanovic has done a good job hanging on to the lead group. He's fourth. Ryan Soper completes the top 5. Then Andronico 6th. Ryan Caggiano 7th. And Dylan Young, Nathan Stapleton, and Rashia Mahendra in the 42. They complete the top 10, with Mark Davey and Chrissy Spletzer directly behind them. It's going to be interesting to see what happens on this restart. If we get another caution and it jumbles up the field once again, how many cars are we even going to have left at the end if that happens?
Yeah, I was about to say that maybe things could be a bit calmer with less cars on the racetrack. We're going to go green with 11 to go, so there's still plenty of time. You've seen what can happen in just 19 laps. So who knows what could play out. Even with a smaller field, we could see yet another big wreck like you mentioned.
Hopefully we don't see that, because we want to have some great green flag racing to the end of this thing. Will Game Breaker Racing bring it home 1-2 and solidify the outside lane for the Daytona 500? Or will one of these other cars sneak up and steal the show away? We're going to find out.
Yeah, lots of stories to look at.
We're going to find out in about 11 laps time, because the pace car is getting ready to peel off, and let Sam Denoto lead us back to green with 11 laps remaining in duel number 2. Pace car's off. Denoto leads them into the zone. The green flag is back in the air, and once again, for the third time, we're back underway at Daytona. Denoto gets a good start. Caggiano's wasting no time back there. He's immediately jumped to the outside, trying to get by that 50 car. That's an important pass for him to make, because that puts him into the Daytona 500 with that pass.
Yeah, I saw some cars towards the back jump up to the high line before they even cross the start-finish line, which you can do under these regulations. You can move up and pass on the high side in the restart zone.
But front 6, single file, Caggiano did make the pass on Andronico to move up into the transfer spot. A lot of these guys, though, way off the pace, and their hopes are quickly dwindling. But up at the front, Chris Lattimore trying to make a move on Aaron Hall. With the diminished field, he's got a great chance at making his first Daytona 500 start. He missed this race last year, remember? And how about Ryan Soper? He's been in both of these accidents so far. He's still got a fast car, and now he's on the inside by himself trying to make a move for third.
Now, lots of great stories up here. We have some open cars up here that are now potentially in the running to win this thing. And what a story that would be to, not only make it in general, but, say that you're a dual winner and to have such a good starting position for the 500.
Yep, we've got 3 open cars in this lead group, 1 trailing behind, and then we have this second group here of damaged vehicles trying to keep in touch with the lead group. But at the same time, they're losing more and more time. Nathan Stapleton in that red and black 27, I believe, is the only one that could be able to catch back up to this group. It's going to take a lot of effort, but he alone, I believe, would be able to do it. In the meantime, 7 cars under a blanket for the lead, 3 of which are in the transfer spots for the Daytona 500.
Yeah, it's interesting to see they're still making moves even when they're, relatively safe when it comes to getting into the race. They still want to make moves, and we're going to have to see how that plays out.
But here comes Ryan Caggiano. I told you he had a fast car. He was leading after that first big wreck. He pitted for fresh tires and a full tank of fuel to avert potential disaster. Now he's getting underneath Sam Denoto with a push from Dylan Young in the 29. Moved the Mercedes of Ryan Caggiano to the race lead as we now are coming to 8 laps to go.
Yep, still some exciting racing in the later stages of this race. We have gone down to a very diminished field up front, but I still don't think it's going to be calm. We're not going single file or anything. We have a car with a gap, which means that there could be some runs coming up pretty soon.
That car is Nathan Stapleton. He's doing everything he can to save BTB Motorsports in this duel. Both his teammates got knocked out in crashes. He's doing absolutely everything he can to keep in touch with the lead group. I don't think it's going to work. He's losing more and more time, and his hopes of making the 500 are quickly fading. As you see, Justin Whitmer, he started last in this duel. He's up into the top 10, but back up at the front, it's Caggiano and Denoto out front. Aaron Hall trying to hold off everybody else behind him.
now it looks like they could be going into a bit of a single file here. Like, you do see one car jump out of line on the high side and another on the bottom now. They're still trying to get positions, but it looks like up front they want to try to stay in line for these final few laps.
And honestly, I think it's going to be, unless we get another caution, I think it's safe to say we're going to be fairly sure which cars are going to be making the Daytona 500 through this duel, because one of them's leading, one of them's battling for third, and the other is battling for sixth place, and they're several seconds clear of their main competition. As we now have 6 laps to go, Caggiano still holds a comfortable lead.
But even then, I would not count a caution out of it at this point. We have a lot of cars off screen that, you know, there could be some incidents back there, or even these 7 up here. You never know what could happen.
But keep in mind, we're getting to that point in the race where another caution would just end the race, because we won't have enough laps to get back racing at that point. That's what these guys might be hoping for, is a caution to end this race early.
Yeah, that time frame is quickly closing. There's also the rare chance of a non-caution incident or a mechanical failure, but, you know, that aside, it looks like we have an idea of who could be making the main event here.
Here comes Aaron Hall making a move on his teammate, Sam Donato, trying to get the second spot away, side by side behind the Mercedes of Ryan Caggiano. 5 laps to go in duel number 2. Ryan Soper doing his absolute best to hang on to the lead group, because he needs to stay ahead of that 27 car if he's going to have any hope of making the Daytona 500. He didn't qualify fast enough on pole day. He needs this position badly. And you can see he's got quite a big gap back to 8th place. He's got about 6 seconds worth of margin to work with. But if he doesn't keep in touch with this lead group, that could very easily close out.
Yeah, it's looking good for him right now, as long as they hold on to the draft. They are getting quite a bit separated, and it does look like that 84 could be losing the draft, so it may be a matter of time to see if that pack can catch him, and that can happen very quickly because of the speed difference when you're in the draft or not.
We've got 4 laps to go, and the only side-by-side battle in the lead group is the one for second. Dylan Young all by himself on the inside. Now Aaron Hall ducks down to give him a push. And on the outside, Sam Donato with Chris Lattimore and Stojanovic pushing. And Ryan Soper, these guys going side by side in front of the 84, that helps him catch back up. It punches a bigger hole in the air. Now they're going 3 wide. That's going to help him even more.
And you have Ryan Caggiano up front, and it's what a day it's been for him. To what we've seen him go through, that call that he did to go to pit road, and now he is up front, and not only could he make it into the race, but he could be a dual winner.
3 laps to go, 7.5 miles to settle the Daytona 500 starting field, and Ryan Soper is doing everything he can to hold on. It's Chris Lattimore, he's got to feel pretty good about making the race. He's 3rd. And Ryan Caggiano, he's got to be feeling the best of all. He's leading this thing. He could be 2.5 laps away from bringing Mercedes their first win in one-up competition.
Yeah, there are a lot of good stories that could come from this win, but I don't think it's over. You still see moves for 2nd and 3rd going on these final laps, so despite all that's happened, I think these cars may still want to try to take the dual win here.
And no one would want it more, I feel, than Sam Donato. He only won once last year, and he's determined to start 2024 off on a positive note. 2 laps of racing to go now. I think what Donato needs to do, he's got to back up to the 13 of Lattimore, and they've got to work together to try and get a run past this 81 car. But if Ryan Caggiano can hold on, this would be a great story. He took a year off from competition to regroup himself. He's come back to the Superstar Series in a big way. They may be catching lap traffic, though, on their way to the white flag.
Man, that could really shake things up if they're not careful. We'll have to see how that gap fares. Speaking of gaps, it looks like Ryan Soper is close enough to that lead group that he's probably going to make it in if nothing drastic changes as the white flag comes out for duel number 2.
1 lap to go from Daytona International Speedway. Ryan Caggiano's got a comfortable lead ahead of Donato and Lattimore, who are not working together. They're fighting amongst themselves for 2nd place. Aaron Hall going to try and give his teammate a helping hand off of turn 2. But they are catching that 93 of William Brock, who is about 5 seconds off the pace. He's going to really might decide the outcome of this race right here. Caggiano makes his move to the inside. He gets around the 93. That looks as though it could be the winning move because everybody else is getting separated behind this 93. Off of turn 4 for the final time. The field stacks up behind the 93, but it's going to be Ryan Caggiano returning from sabbatical with a big win in duel number 2. He makes the Daytona 500.
Great story for that team, and what a gap to the win too. The way that played out, he was already up front, but yeah, you hardly ever see a margin of victory that big at Daytona, 0.4 seconds.
And Sam Donotto and Aaron Hall, great teamwork from them. They bring it home second, third. Dylan Young fourth. Chris Lattimore and Ryan Soper 6th and 7th. They will make the Daytona 500 on speed. And that leaves Nathan Stapleton on the outside looking in. He did his best, did everything he could. But for him, for Andreas Andronico, Echo Evans-Ross, after such a strong season last year, Sheed will not make the Daytona 500 either. Zach Rogers and James Ellison will also be going home empty-handed. Those 5 miss out, but we've got the Daytona 500 field set now, and I have a feeling it's going to be an unforgettable one next week.
Yeah, the way this has been shaping up, like the prestige that the 500 has surpasses just making it into the event. So that pressure that's building up, it's going to be huge. Add in 10 extra cars, it's going to be a spectacle to watch.
Absolutely. And with that, the Daytona 500 field is set. We have all 42 cars ready to go. And Ryan Griffin did finish this race under his own power, which means he will lead that outside line to the green flag no matter where he finished tonight. So, from Miles Mashburn and from myself as well, one last thought?
I was just saying, go to see that car get in. It's going to be good stories to watch for all these teams. You've seen them come through tough and thin to get in, and those who came short, I think you can't say they didn't try.
Absolutely. They'll give it their best at Auto Club Speedway in a few weeks' time. But from Miles Mashburn and from myself as well, we say goodbye from the Daytona National Speedway just for a brief moment, because we'll be back next week for the big race, the Daytona 500, to kick off 2024 properly, and get ready to see who kicks off the 1UP Superstar Series in 2024 with a big win at the World Center of Racing.